about JavaScript on Apple TV, and this is going to be as cooperative as I could possibly get it. So first off, I would like to start this with saying that this is a graph of incorrect graphs.
We got to top them.
I know what you're doing, see ya! So anyways, so this is a graph of incorrect graphs, if it is to be believed. But so you just want to make sure that all the representations here are approximations. So just so that you know that. And who the hell is this person standing up in front of you? This is Gant Laborde. Hello, everybody. Hello. So what I would love for you to do is take some amazing photos during this, if you get a chance. Tag that. I'm going to select someone who took a photo of this presentation and tagged me in it, and then go ahead and send them a prize. I'll contact you, I'll DM you, and I'll send you a prize. I'll also be giving out prizes in other sections here. Ooh, I also need to give myself a timer. If anybody knows, this ends at, so you've got to be at the next talk at 2:20, so I've got to make sure you're set there. So that's my Twitter handle right there. Oh, okay, time to show off the spotlight. Everybody, if you haven't seen this yet, this is super cool. Chris had it in his talk. This is one of my favorite things. So there's my Twitter handle. And then why should you listen to me? Honestly, because you're in this room and you're pretty much stuck here, and humans are really bad at going ahead and bailing out on things. So yes, we're all impressed, Chris. I'm also a React Native core contributor, Google developer expert in machine learning and web, Oracle Groundbreaker Ambassador, AWS Community Builder, Cloudinary MD, and Distinguished Toastmaster. I don't know what any of that means, but if you have any certification programs out there, Chris and I are interested in joining them. And then, yeah, all of them. You notice I don't have Microsoft MVP. Jerk, I'm going to get you. Okay, you help me. All right, perfect. So I'm also a published author for O'Reilly, and so the book I'll be giving out today, during the end portion of this, I'll be giving out the book that I recently got released on O'Reilly, which is Learning TensorFlow.js. Now you're in an Apple TV talk, and you're like, well, why the hell would I care about machine learning? You tried to put JavaScript on Apple TV. You showed up to this talk because you want to put JavaScript in places it clearly does not belong. And that is my forte, ladies and gentlemen. This is how to go ahead and bring JavaScript to machine learning, and I promise you it's just as fun. It's available on Amazon if you have an educational budget. Well, I appreciate that if you went ahead and bought a copy. So I work for a wonderful company called Infinite Red, and we do React Native. Spoiler alert, I'm going to talk a bit about React Native, but honestly, this all comes back to JavaScript in a large portion here. And so we do iOS and Android development. We empower these things. We kind of have the USA's only React Native conference. We do all kinds of really cool stuff. This is a great photo for the slide for possibly winning things as well. And so I'll come back and talk about how awesome React Native is. It's just sort of a theme here. You might have seen some React Native talks. You might have dabbled in React Native. My hope is to tell you a story that really makes it click. Okay, you don't have to know anything about React Native to really appreciate what we're going to be doing here. And just to prove, just like I had to show my own credentials, we've got to talk about, yes, we've built amazing stuff for amazing companies in React Native. They came out and they found us and they said, out of all the choices, we want to use JavaScript. And so we said, okay, we're your people. So this is a good place for us to go ahead and do stuff. It's not no-name companies that are doing it, small startups. These are big companies that have been investing in the technology. So let's start off, first of all, it might be a question that you have, is why are we putting JavaScript on Apple TV? This is phase one of the talk. We have 3 phases in the talk, ladies and gentlemen, so you know where you are in the talk. So how many of you do React development? Raise your hand. Good. How many, keep your hands up. How many are like web developers overall? Awesome. Okay, hands down. Now, how many of you do Apple TV development? Okay, good. This is okay. You could stay if you do that. So most of you are familiar with the idea of spinning up a website. I saw almost everybody in this hand put their hand up for React or some kind of framework development. And this is a fantastic experience for most of us. We simply get to go ahead and just say, all right, spin up an app. When I make changes over here, I make changes over there. Now, how many of you have tried to go into native development and bounced right back out? It took me like 4 tries to get into finally developing native. I tried probably back in 2009, 2010, and then 2012. It was just really hard to kind of get into it, and especially, I was like, oh, I'll be the Android guy after I couldn't do Objective-C for a while. I did finally get into mobile development in 2014. So here's an interesting thing. What does React look like on mobile? And this is an interesting concept, right? Okay, so you think, oh, we do mobile-first development. We were just going to go ahead and think, what's the mobile experience? That's what we're going to do. But that's not exactly how things work inside of trying to get React into a real mobile environment. Because there's still this entire space of not just websites. You know, you have millions of apps on Google Play. You have millions of apps in the App Store. You have all these different places. So why, with the web being so great, with progressive web apps being so great, why are we still having large companies, having all kinds of people call us up and say, like, look, we want to go ahead and we still want to have this sort of like different experience for mobile? And that's the answer. The software is a means to an experience. Now, when you put this on React Native, when you take React to a mobile device, here's something cool that happens. It doesn't have the DOM. So we've lost the DOM, okay? How many of you have done React Native development before? Can I see your hand? Okay, good. So you'll be familiar with this, but I'm gonna kind of catch everybody up to it. So if I say I want to put some text on a screen, I don't say like, oh, I want to go ahead and just do a paragraph tag or something like that. What they did is they just made up what those components are on all these platforms because we call it different things. So if I were to go ahead and try to do, if I was on iOS, that's called a UI label. Okay, you have to memorize that. But you go to Android and you have to remember, yep, that's called a text view. Okay, that's great. Now I'm supporting two platforms. I have to memorize two different things. You don't have to do that anymore. It's a layer a little bit on top of that. And what happens is, this is the React Native part. I write that I want to go ahead and put text there in this abstract component. And yes, I don't get paragraph tags and div tags and all that cool stuff. I have to learn a new little thing. But then when it goes to its native platform, it knows what to go ahead and call that. I don't have to go watch WWDC and then go to all those talks and then learn all those new pieces and then go to the Android talks and learn all those new pieces. That does make you a better React Native developer. It does make you a better developer on each platform, but it's not necessary for you to get off the ground anymore. And so if I create this inside of React Native, it identifies and goes to the platform. And so that's the first benefit that I say is, why is React Native? Because I'm now writing on a layer that is abstracted, but then goes down into the native layer and actually cares about that. I'm not doing web views anymore. Now you might say, well, whatever, Gant, a web view would be exactly what I really want. But there's other things here. So what I want to say is that web views will lock you in here for React knowledge, all of your React knowledge that you already know if you've done it, if you use hooks, or if you have your own state manager, or if you're really great at JavaScript and you have a huge NPM library. Well, then all that stuff comes in, and the trick is, most of the time, without you having to think about it, it comes in and integrates with native for an optimized and platform-specific feel. And that is somewhat of the magic that I'm going to kind of talk about here. And this is how we're going to get to Apple TV to a certain degree. Because what I want to say here is that the really important part is, why did we get into developing stuff? Was it for the paycheck, really? Is that why you wrote your first Hello World program? No, you wanted to build an experience. You wanted the machine to talk back to you. You wanted to have significant positive impact in the world. If you just wanted to go ahead and do it for the money, you're not doing JavaScript. You're probably solving some crazy Java problem for some ridiculous salary, and everybody calls you for that one problem, and that's it. If you actually want to build stuff and ship apps and have fun experiences and build Apple TV apps, this is what it's about. Over 65% of the world has internet access. They spend at least 7 hours a day on the internet, and then almost half the world already has smartphones. You being able to build this experience is what lets you have here. I have a Willy Wonka quote: "We are the music makers, we are the dreamers of dreams." And while development does pay the bills, I've not met anyone yet, and I'm happy to meet you, that got into this just to go ahead and pay the bills. Money only takes you so far. We are creators. So let's talk about creation. We're trying to create something for a person. What does their day look like? They're on a desktop machine for a while. Okay, well then they're locked to a browser choice. They're on a phone for a while. Okay, well now they have their OS locked in. Then they go home and they pull up the TV, right? And then they're watching shows there. Now TV platforms are wildly disparate, but not exclusive. And then they have their wearable smart devices and watches, right? In order to go ahead and follow an average person throughout their day, we actually no longer have the ability to just follow them on their smartphone. We follow them through a world of devices. And for you, you might say, that's why I build a website for that, because I don't want to deal with this many platforms and this many people to go ahead and release a product and have an experience. My significant positive impact goes to web because I'm tired. Well, going from web to all devices gives you time, and the price is great, it's maintainable and updatable, but it's lacking something. It lacks that sort of experience specifically for the device. It lacks something. And you might say, like, you know what? They can deal with that. Well, let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about Apple TV. So if you go to web, PWAs don't work on smartwatches, smart TVs, Apple TV, Chromecast, Android TV, PlayStation, Tesla cars, yeah, they have a browser, and some game consoles. So are you really going everywhere? And look at this beautiful sort of experience that you get with these 3D cool icons that you can have on Apple TV while you're just going to be some link that they go to. Is that the experience that you wanted to deliver? I don't think it is. So then they have this thing called the Dancing Bear. Dancing Bear was covered by Alan Cooper, and I'll sum it up real fast. The Dancing Bear is that we are amazed that the bear dances at all, and we forget to care how well the bear actually dances. And over time, we start to actually care. It's great that web actually goes to all those great places. And at first, we're like, I did this, and it went everywhere, and you can access it. But then when you're finally showing somebody late one night, and you're having all those problems in front of them, we know that experience, something's not working, or it's really weird for that particular platform, you start to feel sad because, yeah, the bear danced, but it danced poorly. Instead, let's go ahead and take one step back and still keep a lot of the benefits. Instead of web to all platforms, we will go JavaScript to all devices and platforms. And now we can have the native feel. Now we have the native performance. And yes, we can still be maintainable and updatable just like before. So to do that, spoiler alert, we constantly seem to be using React Native. Now, if you use Flutter, I think that's awesome. I think they've got an interesting angle on how they're planning on doing that. I think that the plan of how they're doing that is super, super cool. I don't know, I'm still very, very reticent on all the different ways, and I'll say that once we start getting buy-in on Flutter, it'll be a major, major, major competitor. I love the debates on this. For right now, I still go with React Native, but I am willing to change my mind because it's not about the tech, it's about the experience. And I'm happy to go ahead and say, forget it in a second, and switch to Flutter in a second. But for right now, this talk, we'll talk a little bit about React Native, and most of you raised your hand for React, so don't worry, you won't have to learn Dart or any new concepts to read the code here. And if you can read Dart, then you're cool. All right, let's go to phase 2. So Gant, you talked a little bit about why we're going to go ahead and do this. Now let's talk about, show us, you said React Native is your solution. Let's see what that looks like. And I think that what's really cool about this is that the solution really kind of solidified. Now, how many people are actually using React Native in production is a question you might ask. All right, so look to the person to your left. Look to the person to your right, your other right. Good. Raise your hand. Put it down. I don't know how many people are doing it either, so that worked out well. But the truth is, it really is a fun experience to kind of have it there, and we've seen our business steadily, steadily incline. And I think what really tells the story on what the power is was when I show you on Apple TV. So Apple TV, you know, iOS and Android feel the same. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and talk about what does it feel like to switch platforms and go all the way from that to Apple TV. So what is the developer experience like? Is it like native? No, it's freaking amazing. So as you're doing it, so I'm going to show you a video real quick. And this is the first time I had gotten my React Native code to work on my Apple TV. I'll share it. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not. This probably doesn't have the audio. No, I need to get the audio, man. Let me go ahead and see if I can get the... well, all right. Just remember that there's really cool music right here. We'll just say that. So I type, guess what? React Native on, hit save, and I'll give you the slides. And then as I hit save, I'm not wired in. Oh, there we go. Woo! That was fun. Flair for the dramatic much? Okay, so I'm not wired to the Apple TV. There I am in VS Code editing JSX, and I hit save, and then I watched as immediately my Apple TV picked up the new project and then did hot module reloading to show me my code directly on a regular actual Apple TV. That is super awesome. It takes a little bit of time to set up, of course. It's not magic. I don't just go, that TV, go get it, React Native. But you have to actually think about it for a second. Then you get there and you set it up. And then as you're coding, you can do that. Of course, we'll be showing the rest of the demos in a simulator. I couldn't get an Apple TV in here to do the rest of that. But look at that experience. Look at how much comfort and amazing that was. So when we're thinking about the developer experience for web, we're bringing it over and we're getting that same. No, don't play it again. So, lots of you already think in web, especially in accessibility experts. You have to think about web. You have giving focus to things, you have mouse over, you have click, and then you have to think about usually Chrome, Firefox, MS Edge, and Opera. So you have all these different states that you have in web. Well, that's the thing that doesn't really translate over. Like sort of the user interaction experience in the space is very different per device. And so if you think about how this looks on mobile, there's no such thing as hover on mobile. So when you think as a React Native developer, you don't have any choice. You have to kind of think in the platform for a moment. You have a much different experience. You can't hover over a button and have it, no, you actually have to press. And it's not a click, it's a press. And there's different kinds of press. There's long press. There used to be force press, but something happened with Star Wars, I don't know, and that's kind of messed up now. So you have to think more about fewer platforms, and you have to think about that kind of UI. Well, here's the other thing. I want to kind of make that happen again. Think about Apple TV. How many of you have Apple TV? Yeah, oh, so this will sort of feel the same for you, but the other half of you, this is really interesting. Like, what's going on there? I can't really kind of do anything but give focus. If I want to go to a particular component on a page, I have to scroll through other kind of components. It's actually the accessibility for Apple TV is key for me to even access or deal with anything on the screen. And it's a different way of thinking if you're not thinking about that traditionally in web. So Gant, let's go ahead and start coding. So I want to start you off with 4 React Native components that are very, 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 very simple that you need to know. You have first and foremost a view, which feels like a div. And then because scrolling is actually very important, we have a scroll view, which is like a div that scrolls. We have the text, which I mentioned earlier. And then anytime you want to go ahead and get input, you have the text input. With these 4 kind of components, you can build most to-do apps and kind of plans like that and make it pretty easy. So I'm going to be using things like this. You can look up all the documentation of all the components and what they are on reactnative.dev. And then you say, well, Gant, what if I can't actually compose things from what you've already displayed? Well, actually, we'll kind of get into that problem, especially on Apple TV, and we'll solve it that way. So your React-powered code still makes up 50% of what you're thinking. Your JavaScript brain is still going 50%. But you have to think a little bit more, and this is a new step. You have to think about platform specifics, and then you have to know the React Native abstraction that kind of happens there. So rather than saying like, oh, we'll solve the entire problem by just shipping web everywhere, by shipping JavaScript everywhere, you reuse half of what you know. You usually learn this part, and then you just think about this part for each platform. And that's what it feels like to develop in this. So I want to make a little app with y'all, and it's a pretty simple app. What we're going to do is we're going to get a list of players, and we have a variable number of players. And what I want to do at the end of this is I actually coded a terrible game that we're going to play. So I will need 4 volunteers. 2 of you will win my book, and 2 of you will win a notebook. So start thinking if you're willing to volunteer at the end of this. I'll be bringing you in here. and we will play my absolutely terrible game. So the game depends on a variable number of players, and I have to figure that out. So how do we do this in React Native? So I have a scroll view. Oh, I just hit the back button for no reason. That's good. I'll do that. Okay, so we have a scroll view because we don't know how many players, so it could scroll off the screen. That's important. We have a view, which is just like a div, which will just hold everything. We have a text that says how many players. This is sort of like a label. And then we have a text input, and we say, look, oh, let's make sure it's numeric. I want numbers here, asking for the number of players. And then I chose Redux here. I'm not going to get into Redux, but I'm just going to dispatch that it changes the size every time you type a new number of players here. It'll go ahead and dispatch a new number of players that comes out there. And so this is your traditional form, and it doesn't take that long. View text and text input are self-explanatory, excellent declarative, encapsulated, functional components. Your brain can process these. You don't have to worry too much. It takes a little bit of time, and then you're speaking React Native. And then, of course, I'm going to render a specific number of text input boxes depending upon the how many you have actually typed in. So I have, I'm going to go ahead and give them player names, and then I'm going to create I'm going to map over the items that came through from reducers, from Redux. Use whatever state management you're familiar with. But then I'm going to map over those and then go ahead and give each of those their own dispatch to update so that they can be managed components and actually identify what they are. So you have your text inputs. So this is me saying how many players and what are their names, right? Let's see what that looks like on mobile. So we have how many players, number of players, and I go ahead and type 1. And I made it red on purpose. We saw that was 1, 11, and it just makes them more boxes. That's 5. And then we'll go ahead and we'll start filling out their names, and it actually manages it. So I've got Jerry. I think these are all, you know these are Rick and Morty characters, right? So Rick, Morty, Summer, and Gant. He's a very well-known Rick and Morty character. So that's not hard. You probably already know how to do that in JavaScript. You probably already knew how to do all that stuff. Was there, for those of you who didn't know how to go ahead and do the sort of like you're not familiar with React Native, from your React or your JavaScript experience, did I like just break your brain, or was that readable code? Hands up if you were able to understand what the hell I just did. Fantastic. Okay, perfect. So what we have here is our really simple setup, and now I have this code that works perfectly on iOS and Android, and if I'm really crazy, I could actually bring it back to web through React Native, which is really weird, but it's an interesting way. So let's see what this looks like inside of Apple TV. So that was a fine UI. I have a number of players that are going here, but we have to think, what's that last 25%? You have to think about the platform. So I just took that same exact code, brought it on over here, and then we have that set up there and say how many players. And so you select the number of players, and you see I can't click on that, right? First, like, uh-oh moment in your brain, you can't click on that. You had to give it focus, and it gives you a full screen modal for this stuff because that's how Apple TV should look, and that's how Apple TV works. And it gives me a number indicator, and you can see behind there all those red text boxes showing and hiding depending on how many that I actually had there. And so the interesting thing is you could see that translucent screen that's happening, and then you're able to take that exact same code and move it over here, and then I could type in the players' names. And when I type in the players' names, it automatically brings it to the next text box. That's sort of like the Apple TV experience to a certain degree, and you can see the red behind there growing and shrinking. So now we have our player names there, and we're set up, and I have those set up. Okay, so that was the same code running on each platform. But here's what I want to say to you. Gant, you said, all right, please stop playing. Stop playing. I want to ask you all something, though. Did you feel a weird feeling looking at like how that looked on mobile versus how it looked on Apple TV? I saw some nods already. Yes, it doesn't feel right for Apple TV. And this is the problem of taking web and putting it everywhere. You're ignoring the platform. So that was the same code in two different places. So you say, Gant, well, that looks nice try. React Native doesn't work here. And it feels sloppy. That's me being sloppy as a drunken wizard right there. I have stickers, by the way. You can come contact me. I will mail you stickers. So we can do better. The JavaScript is on the native platforms, and it's rendering native components. Our business logic is there. So anytime we want to, we are still building native items. We can dip into native. We can decide to dig a little bit deeper and say, let's reimagine what that should look like on Apple TV, then have the same code where it runs everything else and it gets to that one spot of number of players and says, you know what? We're going to do this differently. It bifurcates and says, on iOS and Android, we'll do it this way, but on Apple TV, we'll load these components. We'll do this way. We'll do this entire experience, which feels very specific to the platform. And we can identify deep into native. And this is where web can really have a problem because you only have the APIs that are available to you through that browser. Whereas you can always dig down into native, write something, and get it back up. And a lot of people already do, because what we're going to do is we're going to really pay attention to why that felt like mess. On web, you have lots of space and lots of ways to interact. On mobile, you have no space and tons of ways to interact. But on TV, this is why it felt weird. You have tons of space, but your interactions are very, very compounded. So what could we do? Let's go ahead and make something that feels a little bit better. Now, I didn't have to write the native code. Someone already wrote this. I just had to bring it in. And I said, you know what? Let's pay attention to the Apple remote. And I want to make an entire component that is like number of players component. And it's going to do a cool animation. It's got to feel like Apple, right? One more thing. Come on, Tim Apple. So we've got to go ahead and say, instead, I want to pay attention to the events where they're going to swipe up on their actual device or press up, depending on what their remote is. And then I want to go ahead and increment then. And then when they go ahead and they lowercase, if I see any events that are doing down, these are native events that we're looking at. Then I want to decrement that in JavaScript. And so I think this creates a clean and focused UI. So what does that look like? This feels so much cooler, so much more like Apple. All right, I've got this animated set of forms. I go 9 to 10. It's got to do that crazy little spin thing where the 9 goes back down to the 0 real fast. You're like, whoa, this feels right. And so there you are actually on the remote, because what are your people actually interacting with? They'll be holding the Apple TV remote. They'll be doing that. This is great because we could dig in on that, and I didn't have to write any code to do this. Someone already went and did the native code and added it back here. That's actually by default when you add React Native for Apple TV. So this feels really cool, right, for the number of players. And then if we take a look at it, I have an example here, but I would love to, if we have time, let's go ahead and play our game. So I'm going to need 4 volunteers to play some terrible game I made up. You, sir, in the back. We'll go ahead and I see, yeah, so come on up to the front. This will be a lot of fun. Yeah, and then you two right there, come up to the front. And I need one more person. Yes, you, sir, in the back, come up to the front. Okay, perfect. Everybody in the back, give them a round of applause. Okay, Gant, so let's go ahead and see your absolute terrible game. Okay, so you'll stand right here. Just stay right here at the front. I'm going to have to unclip my microphones depending on what happens here. So, all right, so we're here on Apple TV. This is a simulator. So I decide, oh, I've got this game called Hey You. Y'all ready to play Hey You? Yeah. Yes, I love it. All right, so now we're going to go into Hey You. And then we've got 4 players here. Let's go ahead and do that stupid animation just because it takes so much time. Ooh, ooh, oh, wow. All right, we got 4 players here. All right, perfect. We're going to do single elimination, although it doesn't matter because I didn't actually code this part. Okay, so we're going to name you all Player 1. I know you have real identities. Player 2, Player 3, and Player 4. Okay, we're going to go like this way for the audience. So you're Player 1, Player 2, Player 3, and Player 4. And then we're going to, yes, we want to confirm. And then, oh yeah, look at this. Nothing happens. Good job, Gant. Am I running this right now? What's happening here? I broke it. This is the price of live demos. So, oh look, I got a reloading here. All right, so let's go here. I think by default, I default you all to player. I have the default set there. So if I don't even do anything, this is my speed round version. Please animate a video. You bastards. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do here. This worked so many times before this. Then you leave it running for a while, and this is what happens. So I'm gonna live code now because that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to go to the app, and then we're going to say, we're going to start you off on the game mode with those players. There we go. So we're in here, player 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got a wheel. Now, that was supposed to play a video, do all kinds of stuff. I have no idea. My computer probably fell asleep and broke everything, but no problem. Okay, so first thing we're going to have is player 1 versus player 2. And this is a game that you could actually have with your friends at a party that I've decided to make, okay? So, and I don't have the rackets in here. So player 1 versus player 2, let's see what they're going to play. We spin the wheel. Ooh. Ah. Okay, out status. Okay, you two. All right, here's what's happening here. You have to turn to the audience, and you have to out status each other. Now, we don't know anything about you two. So you just have to go ahead and give the best presentation. You have 30 seconds to talk over each other, which one of you is going to be the winner, and then you have to tell the audience which one of you is the more important person, okay? So this is the game I've invented. Sorry it landed on this. There's rock, paper, scissors on there. You could have gotten that. No, you have to out-status one another. All right, so come here to the front. I'm going to go ahead and give you my microphones here so we can talk about it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say, now tell everybody who you are and why you're important.
Am I allowed to lie?
We wouldn't know.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, you're still wired to me, so you have to stay there.
Okay, I am the developer of a fantastic React Native app. In fact, during this presentation, I learned so much from Gant that I actually developed an app on the spot, and that's the game we're playing right now.
Wow, very nice, very nice, very nice. All right, status number 2.
Hi, my name's Alex Bezos. My father's a pretty big deal. He totally owns this company, and if you guys are looking for gift cards, come chat with me after.
Very nice, very nice. All right, now, so the part I really wanted to code with this was, all right, audience participation is the party game at the house. All right, player 1, round of applause. How well did he do? Yeah? Player 2? Ah, geez, them guys, flip a coin. I don't know. We know what we're going to do with? We're going to go with player 2 because I want one of those gift cards. All right, so player 1, you get a notebook here. Okay, so now players 3 and 4, and this is an excellent idea here, so we're going to spin the wheel of destiny one more time. These wheels are, by the way, SVG vectors. They're spinning with celebrities. Screw that game. Let's play something easier. Do you know any celebrities? You know a lot of celebrities? Damn it, maybe we should have done that. Okay, we're doing the rhyme game. We're doing the rhyme game. Okay, here we go. So players 3 and 4. So I need a word from the audience. Something not from him. What's that? Friendly. Okay, friendly. The word is friendly. We're going to go back and forth until one of you can no longer rhyme the word friendly, and then we will have our winner. We're starting with you, player 3. I don't even know if there's a word that rhymes with friendly, is there? Damn it, you. Who said there were developers coming here? I hate you all. Can someone give me a simple, give me a word.
Friendly.
Okay, so can someone give us, we're going to go with bat. We're going to go with bat. Okay? Words that rhyme with bat.
Cat. Hat. Fat. Rat. That. Mat. Rat.
Oh, no. Thank you so much, player 3. You are eliminated. And so this is how it goes. Okay, player 3, you are eliminated. You get a notebook. Here you go. And that means that I'm not going to do a finale against you two, but each of you get a copy of the book. So winners there. Give them a round of applause for playing this silly party game. Yeah. That's fun. So that's a stupid idea for a game that I came up with. As you can tell, I'll be selling it for 99 cents on the Apple Store. I expect you all to buy it. Okay. All right. Everybody took that seriously. Cool. So these are React Native components. These are a simple setup of that. So now this automatically would work perfectly. Same game. I could actually make it work where it has the whole entire game on a device or actually inside Apple TV. I could also tie this in and write React Native. And this is an idea that I had, but time's a time thing, right? So what I wanted to have is the voting, instead of it being by the audience, I could choose for you all to go to a website and vote on your phone, or download an app and vote on your phone. I could actually write the voting and participation, naming and participants and stuff like that. You probably play it. You could do that in React Native and have it tie in directly with Apple TV. So you could have two complete experiences sharing an enormous code base of everything together. And what I want to kind of say is, like, what does it look like when you're sharing that code? Stop showing videos. Here we go. So what we have here is you have the process of researching, building, and then being able to tie down into native. So we can actually take a look directly on all that. And all of your NPM libraries, except the ones that identify for a DOM or expect there to be a file system or any kind of things like that, they're very node specific or any of those other places, will work directly in, just like it works, most websites will work directly inside of React Native, and then also work directly on Apple TV. But you have to go ahead and notice when you're having that experience break, your user experience people and your accessibility people will be the first ones to tell you by far when you're doing something wrong there. And then you could dive into native and fix it, and it doesn't even, usually somebody fixed it already before you. And that's what the great part of that is. So you say, Gant, what does that actually end up being like? Because we said, like I said earlier, we are the React Native development company in the US and we throw the conference, we have a bunch of stuff, I'll talk about that right there at the end. But one of the things that we end up seeing a lot of is, like, what does that actually feel like? How much code reusability are you actually happening? We're shipping tons and tons of apps. So what I'll say here is that coding from scratch, which is basically the product for the customer as they have described it, is around 50% of the work. That's about 50% of what we have to do, is actually just build screens that feel like they're for this particular company, okay? 35% of our code base actually comes in from pre-existing things that are on NPM. That's like list views, or like I just pulled in earlier to actually have the really cool number of players scroller. I could actually release that as a component. You don't have to write it anymore. But the ability to read the remote up and down, that was already released on NPM. So 35% of our code base actually comes from pre-existing already stuff on NPM, which is great. Then I would say that we have to modify and customize libraries that already exist out there. So there's some things out there that are for theming. You might realize that on some systems you have to have dark mode versus light mode or other things like that. And then we have to, like, customize those to fit the client theme and style. That will generally be 15% of the project. And then the last time, I'll say this, is like, if you have to jump into native, if you have any native developers, they feel like rock stars at this particular moment, is that final 2% where you actually have to say, okay, we have to pay for somebody to go into native, or we have to have a person on staff that can go into native, write the stuff, wrap it up, and then bring it back into JavaScript world so that our web developers or our React Native developers can kind of do that. And that's only a few of the developers that you generally have, are kind of like the super special forces team that can do that stuff, but we don't need everybody on our team to be able to do that. It is fun, and it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, you went into the cave, and you came back out, and you made this cool thing. So we actually really celebrate that at our company, but it only happens for about 2% of the code for all of our clients. So that is our structure, and it's just like saying, Gant, how much are you reusing between iOS and Android? Over 90%. How much are you reusing when you go to web? A significant portion, I'd say like 70% can be reused in web. And then if you go to Apple TV, to be honest, I haven't had an Apple TV client yet. That was my first Apple TV project, that wonderful game you all just played that I might finish one day. That's the first one, but the amount of reusability there was very high already. I used all the same libraries. There was a talk on React Native animation earlier this morning about Reanimated 2 that works directly on all of these as well. So I just want to say, like, if you're interested, definitely grow with us. We have tons of content for you. Throw the conference in July. The React Native conference is called Chain React. You can come see me again, say hi. We throw that in Portland every year in July. If you've ever been to Portland in July It's a nice place, and there's a lot of great beers, so talk your boss into sending you to Chain React if y'all are interested in doing mobile development. We also do the React Native newsletter with over 16,000 subscribers. Constantly, that comes out twice a month. And then last but not least, we just went ahead and did our initiative for the past year of React Native Radio, which was an existing podcast we purchased and redid. If you want to just listen to people on React Native Radio and kind of hear what they're working on, they'll tell you about the stories of going into native. They'll tell you the stories. They'll have people on from Facebook who are saying what's coming in and what's going to happen next. So you're super, super connected by listening to these three things. And then if you ever get stuck, yes, of course, we are a consulting company, so we could come in and help anybody out if they get stuck, but obviously, we help a lot more people get started than we ever help people get unstuck. I'd say we're best React Native shop. We do consulting, training, and then I'll also say this. I'll go ahead and say it. We're the best at Rocket League out of every dev shop out there. If you want to bring the heat, go ahead, bring it. If you've got a good Rocket League team, let's see it. And this would be absolutely impossible without the dude who originally started React Native on Apple TV, wrote that custom code automatically, stays on top of it all the time. There he is wearing the shirt from when he talked at our Chain React conf. Doug Lauder at Salesforce. This is his Twitter handle. If you take a photo and you tag Doug, that would make me very happy. It would make Doug very happy. He's a cool dude, and he stays on top of it. I had a problem in getting those SVGs to spin, and I was like, hey man, so I'm having this issue with React Native SVG only on Apple TV. What do you think is the possibly that we could chat about a solution? He's like, here it is, it's on line 15, I fixed it, here's the pull request. I was like, jeez, okay, dude, you're a beast. This dude's amazing. The fact that he keeps on top of that Apple TV port of React Native. It can go to all kinds of platforms, but Apple TV announces something new, then Doug touches it, and then next thing you know, there's all kinds of great JavaScript options for you to do cool stuff on Apple TV without having to dip down into native. The guy is a beast. He's fantastic. So that's Doug Lauder. He's spoken at a conference, and he's a really, really, really nice guy. I just want to say, like, this was a really interesting and fun talk for me. If you want to talk more about React Native, if you want to talk more about AI, if you want to talk more about any of the silly things that we have here, or if you just want to hang out and chat, or if you want some stickers, please meet up with me, chat with me after this. This has been, I love coming to ConnectTech. I miss talking to people, and I just want to say thank you, everybody.